Hey there, friends. Pastor Jason here. Glad you can join me for daily devotional. Sorry I missed you yesterday. We're in Leviticus chapter 23 and 24. So, 23 is a little bit longer, 24 is a little bit shorter. We're going to get through it. Let's go. Leviticus 23, verse 1. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, these are my appointed times, the times of the Lord, that you will proclaim as sacred assemblies. Work may be done for 6 days, but on the seventh day there must be a Sabbath of complete rest, a sacred assembly. You are not to do any work. It is a Sabbath to the Lord wherever you live. These are the Lord's appointed times, the sacred assemblies you are to proclaim at their appointed times. The Passover to the Lord comes in the first month at twilight of the 14th day of the month. The festival of unleavened bread to the Lord is on the 15th day of the same month. For 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. On the first day you are to hold a sacred assembly. You are not to do any daily work. You are to present a fire offering to the Lord for 7 days. On the seventh day there will be a sacred assembly. You must not do any daily work." The Lord spoke to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when you enter the land that I am giving you and reap its harvest, you are to bring the first sheaf of your harvest to the priest. He will wave the sheaf before the Lord so that you may be accepted. The priest is to wave it on the day after the Sabbath. On the day you wave the sheaf, you are to offer a year-old male lamb without blemish as a burnt offering to the Lord. Its grain offering is to be 4 quarts of fine flour mixed with oil as a fire offering to the Lord, a pleasing aroma, and its drink offering will be 1 quart of wine. You must not eat bread, roasted grain, or any new grain until this very day, and until you've brought the offering to your God. This is to be a permanent statute throughout your generations wherever you live. You are to count 7 complete weeks, starting from the day after the Sabbath, the day you brought the sheaf of the presentation offering. You are to count 50 days until the day after the 7th Sabbath, and then present an offering of new grain to the Lord. Bring 2 loaves of bread from your settlements as a presentation offering, each of them made from 4 quarts of fine flour, baked with yeast as first fruits to the Lord. You are to present with the bread 7 unblemished lambs, a year old, 1 young bull, and 2 rams. They will be a burnt offering to the Lord, with their grain offerings and drink offerings, a fire offering of a pleasing aroma to the Lord. You are also to prepare 1 male goat as a sin offering and 2 male lambs as a year old as a fellowship sacrifice. The priest will wave the lambs with the bread of first fruits as a presentation offering before the Lord. The bread and the 2 lambs will be holy to the Lord. For the priest, on that same day you will make a proclamation and hold a sacred assembly. You are not to do any daily work. This is to be a permanent statute wherever you live throughout your generations. When you reap the harvest of your land, you are not to reap all the way to the edge of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Leave them for the poor and the foreign resident. I am Yahweh your God." Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you are to have a day of complete rest, commemoration, and joyful shouting, a sacred assembly. You must not do any daily work, but you must present a fire offering to the Lord." The Lord again spoke to Moses, "The 10th day of this 7th month is the Day of Atonement. You are to hold a sacred assembly and practice self-denial. You are to present a fire offering to the Lord. On this particular day, you are not to do any work, for it is a day of atonement, to make atonement for yourselves before the Lord your God. If any person does not practice self-denial on this particular day, he must be cut off from his people. I will destroy among his people anyone who does any work on this same day. You are not to do any work. This is a permanent statute throughout your generations wherever you live. It will be a Sabbath of complete rest for you, and you must practice self-denial. You are to observe your Sabbath from the evening of the 9th day of the month until the following evening. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Tell the Israelites the festival of booths to the Lord begins on the 5th day of the 7th month and continues for 7 days. There is to be a sacred assembly on the first day. You are not to do any daily work. You are to present a fire offering to the Lord for 7 days. On the 8th day, you are to hold a sacred assembly and present a fire offering to the Lord. It is a solemn gathering. You are not to do any daily work. These are the Lord's appointed times that you are to proclaim as sacred assemblies for presenting fire offerings to the Lord, burnt offerings and grain offerings, sacrifices and drink offerings, each on its designated day. These are in addition to the offerings for the Lord's Sabbath, your gifts, all your vow offerings, and all your freewill offerings that you give to the Lord. You are to celebrate the Lord's festival on the 15th day of the 7th month for 7 days after you have gathered the produce of the land. There will be complete rest on the first day and complete rest on the 8th day. On the first day, you are to take the product of majestic trees, palm fronds, boughs of leafy trees, the willows of the brook, and then rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. You are to celebrate it as a festival to the Lord 7 days each year. This is a permanent statute for you throughout your generations. You must celebrate it in the 7th month. You are to live in booths for 7 days. All the native born of Israel must live in booths so that your generations may know that I made the Israelites live in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh your God." So Moses declared the Lord's appointed times to the Israelites. Chapter 24. The Lord spoke to Moses, "Command the Israelites to bring you pure oil from crushed olives for the light, in order to keep the lamp burning continually. Aaron is to tend it continually from evening until morning before the Lord, outside the veil of the testimony in the tent of meeting. This is a permanent statute throughout your generations. He must continue to tend the lamps on the pure gold lampstand in the Lord's presence. Take fine flour and bake it into 12 loaves. Each loaf is to be made with 4 quarts. Arrange them in 2 rows, 6 to a row, on the pure gold table before the Lord. Place pure frankincense near each row, so that it may serve as a memorial portion for the bread and fire offering to the Lord. The bread is to be set out before the Lord each Sabbath day as a perpetual covenant obligation on the part of the Israelites. It belongs to Aaron and his sons. You are to eat it in a holy place, for it is the holiest portion for him from the fire offerings to the Lord. This is a permanent statute. This is a permanent rule. Now the son of an Israelite mother and an Egyptian father was among the Israelites. A fight broke out in the camp between the Israelite woman's son and an Israelite man. Her son cursed and blasphemed the name, that is God's name, and they brought him to Moses. His mother's name was Shelemith, a daughter of Dibri of the tribe of Dan. They put him in custody until the Lord's decision could be made clear to them. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, "Bring the one who is cursed to the outside of the camp, and have all who heard him lay their hands on his head. Then have the whole community stone him. And tell the Israelites, if anyone curses his God, he will bear the consequences of his sin. Whoever blasphemes the name of Yahweh is to be put to death. The whole community must stone him. If he blasphemes the name, he is to be put to death, whether the foreign resident or the native. If a man kills anyone, he must be put to death. Whoever kills an animal is to make restitution for it, life for life. If any man inflicts a permanent injury on his neighbor, whatever has done is to be done to him. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Whatever injury he inflicted on the person, the same is to be inflicted on him. Whoever kills an animal is to make restitution for it, but whoever kills a person is to be put to death. You are to have the same law for the foreign resident and the native, because I am Yahweh your God. After Moses spoke to the Israelites, they brought the one who had cursed to the outside of the camp and stoned him. So the Israelites did as the Lord had commanded Moses. Well, it's a tough way to finish, for sure. But what do we find out in these 2 chapters? That the Lord takes seriously his worship and days of rest for us, and he takes his name seriously. Now, we live in the new covenant, right? And Christ fulfilled a lot of the law and the sacrifices and so forth. Does that release us of our obligation from paying attention to the days and celebrations and so forth? And we also get in the New Testament, let no one be a judge over what you eat in days of celebration. But here I feel like we get the sense that, we aren't to be working constantly. We are to be taking time to celebrate our relationship with the Lord, how he blesses us, how he intervenes for us. And we also find about how serious he takes his name, that we shouldn't be using it flippantly. And I would hope that you aren't. With that, I hope you are blessed this week. I hope you go on out and be a blessing to someone today. I pray that you could, rejoice with someone, with how the Lord is working in their lives. Tell them, rejoice with them how he's working in your life, but be sure to encourage them how you see the Lord working in their life. With that, hey, I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow as we continue in Leviticus.